Hey everybody, welcome to Maine Wedding Buzz, and today my guest is Jen Dean from Jen Dean Photography. Hello Jen, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I got started in photography a long time ago now. It's been
many years.
many years ago, yeah. So I was actually thinking about that. I actually started on, those little long, skinny 110 cameras.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first foray into photography.
Oh wow.
So I've always had a camera with me since I was young. And then I brought a portfolio into Mark Rockwood, who's a commercial photographer in Portland, and he hired me to be his studio manager, and I did that for a few years, and he sat me down and was like, you need to go in and do weddings and work with people. And I said, oh, I could never do weddings. And then that's what I did.
And so you just rolled from there.
Yeah, I did.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So basically that's how your whole photography direction went into.
Mm-hmm.
Now do you do weddings or is it glamour shots, elopements? Tell us a little bit about where your photography takes you.
So yeah, for the last 15 years, I was asked to do weddings and families to start with. And once you work with a couple at a wedding, you get to know them, you form a pretty strong relationship, and naturally they call you when they have kids.
Nice.
So you fall into being a family photographer as well. And over the years, though, once in a while I would be asked to do a gift for a fiance that was a boudoir session.
Oh, wow.
So,
which are becoming very popular.
Which are very, very popular now. So it didn't happen as much years ago, but slowly over time I started doing them more. And I really fell in love with the ability to slow everything down. Wedding days tend to be really rushed. Mm-hmm. So the great thing about a family portrait session or a glamour session is that I can take my time. But what ended up happening is once I started doing boudoir sessions and doing research on them and really falling in love with that whole session and what it was all about, I found glamour. And glamour is when someone comes into the studio, they have their hair and makeup done, and I give them champagne and strawberries, and we play music, and we have a lot of fun, and then they actually get a full portrait session with me, and it's different than boudoir. It's in a dress, in your favorite outfits. They have several outfit changes, and we take our time, and we have a lot of fun. And if they want to include something sassy, that's great, but they don't have to necessarily. And when women would come back to see their photos, they would have a really emotional reaction to that. Oftentimes they would cry. They would say, I can't believe that's actually me. And so I felt, I don't know, I just fell in love with the whole process.
So like a bond almost instantly
Mm-hmm.
that becomes with the photo and the client and what you're doing for them.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And so is this one of the shots here, not glamour, but this is the children, like you say, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a phenomenal portrait.
Thank you.
Right here. I love the movement, the color, the way she's looking down, her hair. The photo's just beautiful. It really is. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So now that I have a studio, one of the things that I offer in combination with a glamour session is a mother-daughter session. So mom can come in, get her hair and makeup done, and we do photos of both the mother and the daughter together, and then mom separately gets a little mini glamour session on her own, and then the daughter will get some photos on her own as well. And I have a big rack of clothing.
Oh, wow.
So you can come in and you can bring your own clothes, but then we also look at what I have on my rack of clothes, and I'll recommend things for you. But with little kids, what's really cool is they want to wear those clothes too. They want to play dress up. So I just let them, and I let them pick out things, and we just kind of play in the studio, and it sort of happens organically, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've really, again, I had this moment of like, oh my goodness, like I love doing this work, so I'm going to be doing more of it. That's
incredible. And about this photo right here, tell us a little bit about that one.
That is a traditional, typical glamour session type photo that I do. Sometimes I borrow dresses. That particular dress was from Julia Dennett, Andrea's Bridal in Portland.
Yeah.
And what was really cool about this particular session is I had a videographer come in. So on my website now there is it's a less than 2-minute video. If you go to maineglamourphotography.com, you can go and you can see what a glamour session is all about.
Oh, incredible.
So it's her story. It's not really about me so much, it's more about her. But she had just had a baby, so she wasn't feeling like her usual self, as any mom will tell you after they first have a baby. So
She looks beautiful.
she's stunning. She's totally stunning, but she's not a size 2, and she's, she was saying, I'm tired all the time, and, my whole world is upside down. And so for her, it was a chance to feel beautiful again and get all dressed up. And, yeah, we had a whole lot of fun that day. And that's typically, what a glamour session's all about, is you get to feel special and like a girl and get all dressed up, but also have something that you can then remember that by, that's an heirloom, that, she'll give this to her son, years from now.
Now, do you have them mounted? They almost look like paintings, which
They
is
do.
incredible.
So this is a canvas gallery wrap, and it's my favorite thing ever. I really just feel like everybody should have one of these in their home. You can frame it if you want. Most of my clients choose not to frame them. But yeah, it is. It's like a traditional oil painting.
And you take care of that. You handle that for the client, so they from start to finish.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yep.
And how does the client find you? I mean, do they word of mouth, vendor referral? How does that work?
All of that. Yeah, absolutely. So over the years, I've obviously formed relationships with a lot of vendors that I've gotten to know in the wedding industry, and so those relationships are really important because they know my character, they know the quality of work that I do. And so oftentimes those are the ones that are recommending me. I've also formed relationships. I have a salon that I work closely with. We've done glamour sessions together, so she has my work hanging up in her salon, and I have some doctor's offices in town that I have family work hanging up, and babies, things like that. So I definitely have different businesses that I've worked with over the years to get to know, and having my work displayed in front of people really does make a big difference, but also having the personal recommendation of vendors that have worked with me repeatedly who know that I'm reliable.
And we just worked with Jen this weekend, which was incredible.
We
at
did.
The Portland company, so a big wedding that we just did there, and she was phenomenal. One of the things that I want to point out to everybody, a photographer is there to do the photos, but Jen went above and beyond, because when the car didn't show up to take the bride and groom to a special location for a intimate moment photo session that they had planned, Jen immediately jumped, got her car, and drove them to the Regency, and then had them back to me by 5:30, which was incredible, and I really appreciated that. But I saw you just not even hesitate or not even blink. She immediately got into her car and drove them to the location. So that's incredible. So you want photographers that do that, and so I think that you encompassed all of that day. So I thought that was kind of great.
Thank you.
I wanted to point that out to you. How long do you spend with a client? Say you meet with them. How long does a session or does the whole experience take, let's say?
It depends on the specific client and situation, but as long as it takes. So, I have some wedding clients that call me up on the phone. They've seen my work. They've talked to a vendor. They literally hire me over the phone within a very short amount of time in a quick conversation. So that's their personality, and that's what works for them. And we don't necessarily need to have a one-on-one meeting, or maybe they live out of town, so that's what works for them. But I'm always available by phone and email to those kind of clients. On the other hand, there may be clients, for instance, glamour clients, a lot of the time, they've heard about me or they've seen my work, but it's a big deal. There's a lot of trust that happens when you really want to let your guard down and have some beautiful photos taken and have portraits taken. It's kind of a different dynamic. So those clients, I encourage them to come and meet me. We sit down and we have coffee. We have a long conversation. We get to know each other. And oftentimes that'll happen with brides and grooms too. If they're in the area and they're able to meet with me, I've also had Skype conversations with people. So I tell people, whether it's the wedding or any session, it's pretty personal and you're going to spend a lot of time with me. So I want you to get to know me or whoever it is that you hire. So I think it's really important to make that personal connection. So
do you meet at your studio or do you an office?
I have a home office that I've met people in because it's really beautiful and I can make coffee right there. But I now have the studio in Westbrook as well, and I've debated moving meetings out there. But of course, with winter coming, I'm feeling like maybe I won't drive in the snow all the way to the studio. But
it's Maine,
right?
Drives.
I know. So, but yeah, it can be a really long process. And with wedding clients, once we're with them in this really personal, intimate situation, for a whole wedding day, which has its own dynamic and its own feel, and there's all kinds of emotions and all kinds of things going on, and I get to know them. We are really good friends usually after that. And so they will come back to me for family photos, or And all of my clients, if they are able to come back and meet me, excuse me, and we sit down and look at their photos together. We go through everything together. We have a glass of wine
That must
or a
be an
cup of coffee.
interesting experience when they open the album. Or is it an album? I mean, or is it digital? How does that work?
So the viewing session most often is digital. So we sit down in front of a projection or a computer screen,
Oh, wow.
and we go through all the photos together. So for instance, a wedding, we'll sit down and watch a slideshow of the whole wedding together. We'll talk about the day together. We'll have snacks, and we'll just kind of spend the
And they
evening
pick
together.
through there. Wow,
And
that
they're
must
able to
be
do
that
that.
must be emotional because they're going through the whole day all over again. So they're reliving everything
Yeah.
through photos.
Which is really cool because that is my whole goal with them is to help them be able to relive their day and see it through my eyes and also see the things that they didn't get to see that day. So
'Cause you do miss a lot because you're being pulled in 100 different directions, whether it's family, your grandparents, friends that you haven't seen from college. The photographer needs you, the caterer needs you, the
Yeah.
band needs you. So it's really nice to take that moment and look through the photos and relive it and in a quiet setting,
Yeah.
which is nice with snacks and coffee too, I might
yeah,
add.
yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. And it's the same and so the same thing for a family session or a glamour session, no matter what your session is, I have you come back and sit down and look through the photos with me. And a lot of times for families, I mean, if they have children, it's a very emotional experience because they're seeing their babies and these are the photos that mean so much to them. I've had glamour clients come back and cry and
Oh,
just
nice.
say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's me." So I think it's a really important thing to do, sort of for the client experience to finish that off. I'm not interested in just handing them a disc or sending them to an online gallery. I want them to come and sit down with me and talk and see their photos, and then I can walk them through what their options are for their home and stuff like that as well. But
With that said, part of the segment 2, there'll be a slideshow right after this as well so that you can see more photos of Jen's. And so that way you can see a lot of her work. And I also have noticed that you've been in a lot of magazines as a contributing photographer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, over the years, I started off, one of the things I did was I went to SALT, which is the Documentary Institute, downtown Portland in 2002. That was a while ago. And so I was published in a couple magazines for some documentary work way back, and then sort of went from there to Seacoast Bride, Real Maine Weddings.
Seacoast Weddings at Real Maine.
Yeah, and it's definitely a full-time job. Everybody has different requirements and different things that they need you to do in order to get into those. But it's kind of cool. It obviously makes you feel really excited and special and legitimizes your work, and it's good to be able to have people also
see it in print too.
See it in print and see it in a magazine that they respect.
It gives a lot of credibility too.
Yeah.
A lot of brides want to see that you're all over the place.
Yeah.
And interesting, Jen has a blog and a newsletter she puts out, and recently on her Facebook feed, so join her Facebook page too, there was a snake around this lovely lady's neck, a huge snake. And so I am going to ask the question, what was up with the snake?
Yeah, there's a series of interesting things happened around that. But basically, I think that as a photographer, we do our day-to-day routine, and I always have sort of a list of ideas over here that like, ooh, I want to do this, and this would be a cool idea, and hard to really explain, but snakes kept coming to me.
Wow.
In one way or another, and so I finally said, okay, I'm just going to do this. It took a little while to find the right person. I found a breeder who he's been breeding snakes since he was 15.
Wow.
The man knows them inside and out. I called my stylist, Stephanie Dudley from Diva on Broadway, and she agreed to do it. And then I had another friend there. So basically what ended up happening is I had a camera on a tripod, and I had it tethered to a computer. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And 560 some photos later, about 500 of them are me talking and me saying, okay, go, okay, hit the shutter, okay, wait, where's, it was but what it taught me was that to just go for it, to just do it.
The photos came out phenomenal, so check them out on our Facebook page.
Yeah, they're on my blog as well, and I actually said that one of the things I'm going to do is post the outtakes, which are hysterically funny, and actually they're some of my favorite. But it was about just doing something, doing something because
it was creative. I like
wanted to do it, and definitely. So I debated whether I should put that up on social media, and definitely got more comments than anything else in a long time.
It piqued my interest.
Yep.
I was like, oh, there's Eve. So,
Yeah, I realized after the fact, I was like, cheesy. It's hard not to be cheesy with snake
it was
photos.
good because it opens up conversation, and it's something I've learned that you just can't just sit and say, I'm a photographer. You have to sort of get out of the box and sort of say, I do other things. Because there are people that, love their animals, whether it's a pig, a snake or a pig or a dog, and so they want to incorporate it. So it really showed that you can do all of those things and they still can be beautiful. So I really
Yeah.
like that whole
Have
that
a
whole
little
fact.
class to them.
Exactly.
And that brings up the blog, which I know I wanted.
It's one of the questions I was going to ask you too.
I
About your
wanted to
blog.
talk about that. Well, so I love blogging, and I think like most artists, I shouldn't say that. For me, I'm like, oh, I want to paint. I want to blog. There's all these things you want to do, but you don't have time for. And I've been told that I blog like I talk, which is a little all over the place, and so it's a little hard to follow at
Sort of
times.
why we get along so well.
Right? So, but I love doing it, and I have been working hard to have some more personal blog posts and to put myself out there, because I think that in social media, it's very easy for us to hide and to only show one side of ourselves, which I think in some ways is probably a good thing. And I always want to be professional, but at the same time,
That we're human.
well, and people are hiring me for me. I mean, there's a lot of photographers, and
You're absolutely right.
and I think that you need to obviously have a connection with whoever you hire. And so for me, it's about, well, why am I doing this work? Why did I do this? What does this mean to me? What does this session mean? What am I thinking about? I think there's definitely a balance, but I find that I'm really drawn to doing it, and it's been a really great creative outlet for me.
When you said that about a client picking you and being drawn to certain work, do you feel that you pick the client as well as the client picks you?
Yeah, what's interesting is I do think that it's this connection that you have, and
You're interviewing them just as they're interviewing you, and so
I am, but I think what has ended up happening, and I'm really fortunate, is the people that find me and that are attracted to my work and to my personality are the kind of people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
So it works really well. And there was a woman that called me and said, my husband wants to hire. He read your blog and he said he feels like he knows you and you're really funny and we're just going to hire you. I was like,
You're right.
oh, okay. but obviously that works. I
Yeah.
think that it works for people when you are honest and you say
Genuine,
this is,
and this is who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way with our business. That's how I land my clients, because I don't come off stuffy, or
Right.
they want fun, and that also projects in the work that you do for them.
Right.
And so that you're going to go the extra mile, and you're not going to become friends with everybody that you see, because that would be, you'd have too many friends. And so it just doesn't work that way. But the day of, you are their friend, so you're going to have their back and take care of them and make sure that everything is perfect for them. And I think that you do that. So I
Thank
like
you.
that. So how do you market your photos? Do you do a lot of these with your advertising? Do you let other vendors use your photos in marketing as long as you get credit for them? Is that how that works?
Absolutely, yeah. And I try to follow up and reach out to my vendors. This time of year is super busy, so I forget. And I always tell people when I see them, here's my card, get in touch with me, reach out and ask for your photos. I'm happy to give them to you. Yeah, because I think that it helps everybody out. I know that if I give you photos and you're able to share them on your blog or wherever you're going to give me photo credit, and, I think it's just a good favor to do. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it gives me more exposure. Again, like I said, I have relationships with other vendors like salons and other places where my work is up. And then as far as other marketing that I do have a newsletter that I send out. And it's one of those things where it's, I've tried to make it more interesting than just, hey,
Here I am.
Yep. Here's some new photos. I definitely do that. I just sent one out about mini sessions, which are coming up in October. We're going to do an outside sessions for whatever you want, family or kids or whatever. But also in my newsletters, I try to include some other tip on, how to take a better photo in the bright sun, or how to take better photos in the snow with your fancy camera, because most people are able to afford now. The consumer cameras have gotten better and better and better.
I have an iPhone.
Right,
That's about
or your
it.
iPhone. Actually, iPhones are great cameras. So yeah, I think we're always trying to look for new ways. But I'm very active, in all the social media.
How many events do you do in a day? Is it just one, or do you have multiple team members? I don't know what you call them in the photography world.
Right. Right now, I'm still on my own.
Okay.
When it comes to a wedding, I always have a second photographer there, or
Okay.
at least an assistant. If it's a smaller, shorter wedding, I don't necessarily need a second
Are
photographer.
those called shooters or not? Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I would have a second shooter.
Okay.
And then
And what are they capturing that are they capturing side photos and then you're capturing?
it depends, but basically, yeah. If there's a location, actually at any point during a ceremony, I'm going to have them be in one end of it, and I'm going to be on the other end of it.
Got it.
If the groom's getting ready in one location, they get to go be with them. I stay with the bride. It's really just, and it's a great thing too. Like, I have this amazing photo that my second shooter got of the mother seeing her daughter walk in and covering her mouth, and it's so emotional and so beautiful. So I can't, if I'm in one place, I can't
You can't
cover
capture
everything.
that moment.
Yeah, so it's great.
So that actually is one of my questions that I asked, how many shooters do you have, and so that's actually good to know that you bring an extra person so they can capture those moments that you might not see and that they pick up. Do you consider your style more photojournalistic, or
I love that question. It's so controversial. I mean, if you go online and read from photographers, there's all this about what's really photojournalistic or documentary and what's not. My background is in documentary photography, and I love it, absolutely. So that was my approach initially to weddings, was really hands-off. What happens, happens. And I think there are photographers who really say that is all that they do. However, over the years, I realized a lot of things, and I went to a lot of trainings and workshops, and that there are times when I just need to step in. So if there's perfect light over by this window and you're standing over here, is it really photojournalistic to drag you over into the beautiful light? Technically, no. Also, most bride and grooms are so either nervous or overwhelmed. They have so many people talking to them or whatever's going on. They get out to take their photos together, and they don't remember to wrap their arms around each other or to look at each other directly. So yeah, I direct them.
they get nervous for some reason? How do I hold her hand to cut the cake?
Right.
And you're like, oh.
All of a sudden they can't remember anything, and it's because everybody's staring at them, and I totally get that. So what I've learned over the years is how to connect two people together again, so that hopefully
It shows
doesn't
in the
look,
photos.
Yeah, and it's not overly posed necessarily, but you've connected them together.
Which is interesting because this photo behind you is a phenomenal photo as well. I love the way the lighting and the way the chandeliers are so different. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, that was one of those. At the end of a wedding, I try to do something that shows either the location or some sort of special light, and I set it up with my assistant ahead of time. We sort of go out. It's during dancing. We've sort of done all that we're going to do. We go out and we find something that's beautiful. And in this hallway, I just saw these chandeliers and thought, oh my goodness, this is the perfect spot. So we set it up, we backlit them, we did all the testing, and then we went and grabbed them, brought them out into the hallway, shut all the doors so they were sort of at least somewhat by themselves.
Yep.
And then I had them sort of, I was like, wrap your arms around each other and be really, really in love. And
Like you just got married, right?
Right, like you just got married.
What's the most fun you've had at an event? I mean, and they're all different. So I mean, but is there one event that sticks out in your mind that you say, that's one of my favorites, one of my top 10?
I think you're right, that I think each one of them, anytime that somebody's doing something a little different or outside the box, I get really excited because I have been to so many weddings. But I actually just did a wedding where one of the grooms did a backflip across the dance floor. Completely didn't tell me, and I was like blown away. But at that same wedding, I was like overwhelmed by that, but at that same wedding, there were probably, I know there were over 100 guests, and I looked at the dance floor, and there were probably 3 to 5 people sitting down not dancing.
Really?
And they had so much fun. And there's a couple weddings like that stand out when at the end of the wedding, everybody has gotten out on the dance floor and everybody's dancing and having a great time. And you can just, it's palpable.
Feel the energy.
You can feel the energy. You can feel the love. Everyone's so happy. Those to me are the most fun.
Those moments that you just go, wow, there it is.
Yeah. This is what this is all about.
Yep. And then one of my last questions for you too is, who's your idol in the photography world?
It's definitely changed over the years. Cliff Mottner is a wedding photographer who's amazing with lighting, and I've followed him over the years, but right now, hands down, it's Sue Bryce, and she's a glamour photographer, and she's amazing. She's, world renowned, won many international awards. But the other thing that I love about her is that she's one of the most amazing motivational speakers ever. And you can YouTube, she has an hour talk that she does about fear and
wow.
overcoming fear. And everybody should watch it, but especially if you're an artist or you run a business. And it's sort of about just getting out of your own way. And she's so real. And she makes fun of herself and she throws herself under the bus, but she says, this is how I did it. And to me, I just am so drawn to that. I'm drawn to her amazing work and how hard she's pushed herself, because I think it's all about trying to live life in the moment, enjoy all the little things, but also push yourself to be. I always say you're only as good as your last shot,
Exactly.
or whatever your last event.
Exactly. You're
the
only
last
as good
thing
as
you did. So for me, that's really inspired me to keep doing that.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on Maine Wedding Buzz, and I thank my guest Jen Dean for coming up to come in and sit in and talk to me
Thank you
today.
so much.
Always a pleasure.